Hello, I'm Clint, and today I'm coming to you from my home in Southwest Florida, sunny Southwest Florida, and this is my oral presentation for Project 3 genres. So the genre that I chose to study was motocross. Motocross has been a genre that was introduced earlier on in my life, and I hadn't really given it much thought until a little bit later on. So basically, what is motocross? Well, the definition basically is just cross-country racing on motorcycles. So these motorcycles are tuned up and their engines are modified and they have tires with thicker knobs instead of just flat street tires so they can get over logs and tear up dirt and stuff. So your main audience typically for motocross would be your athletes and your adrenaline junkies. So anyone who likes to go fast and just kind of rip it around and be free, essentially. So a subgenre that I found while I was researching was high endurance sports. These races can last anywhere for a hare scramble, say 1 to 2 hours, or an enduro, which can last 4 to 6 hours depending on the course and the weather conditions. And there's some races, such as the Baja 1000, that can last over a day. And the fastest time recorded ever was 27 hours and 38 minutes. So, the reason and meaning of how I became interested in the sport. At the age of 8, my dad introduced me to racing and riding. Ever since he was a little kid, his dad got them bikes and they worked on them and they went around and raced them all the time, fixed them up and everything. And he wanted that for his son as well. So my father introduced me to the sport, started looking at it a little bit, wasn't really sure because I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll be good at this or not, or I don't want to get hurt. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. So I began to watch races on TV of professional motocross riders, and watching them really kind of just inspired me. And I was like, wow, I want to be like them. That's so cool. And so before I knew it, I was hooked. And all I wanted to do was go ride. I kept saying, Dad, when are we going to go ride? When are we going to go ride? And he's like, not now, we got stuff to do. And I'm like, come on, I want to go ride. So the confidence didn't take that long to build up, but I needed practice before that. So at the age of 10, I entered in my first competitive race. And I didn't do so well, but the fun part was I finally got to do my first race. And another thing with that is that the mental aspect of the race is just as important as the physical aspect, because before you go and sit down on that bike and you go off for an hour to 2 hours or however long your race is, you got to be mentally prepared and you got to be physically prepared, because you don't know what lies ahead of you on that track. You have your one practice lap or so, but when the race comes together and all the riders come together, it's a whole different thing. And that's what makes the sport so beautiful. There were several people throughout my time riding that made it more enjoyable for me. The first were some of the friends that I got to race against. I got to meet many different people from all over the state of Florida, and we all kept in touch with each other, and we would see each other at the races all the time, and we'd hang out before the race and after the race and make fun of each other, say, oh yeah, I could have beaten you on this part here, but I let you get it on this time. So it was just friendly competition. My riding partner made it a lot more enjoyable for me. So a friend of mine, I had raced with him for years. His dad and my dad were both friends, and we both raced together. So that being said, we would also practice together and train together. And in that time, I just found that I found another kid who was just like me, lives about 15 minutes away from me, and we would just go and ride all the time, doing what we loved. So another person that heavily made the sport more enjoyable for me was my father. Through racing, me and him were able to bond together because it was something that us two could do together. And he loved the sport just as much as I loved it. So another group of people that also helped was my dad's riding buddies. So I would go on their to their races with them and everything. And I didn't get to race with them, but I got to go there along the way and be there for the trip. And they were just a great group of guys. We built up good relationships. They'd coach me on certain things that I could do in order to do better. And then we just have a good time. And motocross, it's a pretty demanding sport and it can be very expensive. So motocross basically is a huge time commitment, and it was set at like the highest level of priority throughout my life for many years. Required about 8 to 10 hours of training per week, which say about 6 hours on the weekends and then scattered in between whenever I had time. So we were always on the road. We were always going back and forth from the track to home, always having to work on bikes. If stuff broke, we had to order parts, we had to fix it ourselves, and it just cost a lot of time and money. And I was kind of oblivious to it at the time, but I loved it so much, and my dad knew that I loved it, so we just kept on saying, you know what, we're gonna keep doing this. And motocross was kind of like my main focus for the longest time, and everything revolved around it. My dad helped because he was my coach, my mechanic, my #1 fan, and he was always pushing me to do better and always wanted me to have that like sense of competitiveness, be like, okay, you can do this. Go ahead and get it done. I'm giving you the tools. Now you need to just perform. And that really stood out to me because it showed that he was really trying to look out for me and care for me. And I'm glad to say that I had the opportunity to do this sport. And I'm glad that I was introduced to it by my father. And through this research, it really helped just explore different parts of the ride, so to speak, and just helped me to become better as a person. So there's one more quote that I'd like to end with. Let me see where that is. I just had it up here. And this is what the quote states. It's from Jeremy Twitch Stenberg. Now, Jeremy Stenberg is a well-known freestyle rider, and he used to race competitively in his earlier days, but he switched more to the freestyle aspect of it. So the quote states, "I've had my crashes, I've had my hospital trips, I've been knocked out, I've almost broken every bone in my body. If that's your passion and that's what you want to do, you're going to get back up on that bike and do it again." And that really stood out to me because it's just showing you that if you have a passion and you have a love for something and you really want to do it, go for it. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. Doesn't matter if they're trying to put you down. If it's something that interests you and that you want to do it, you just got to say go for it. And basically full send. So that's kind of my project analysis of motocross in the world of sports. And I hope you like it, and I hope y'all stay safe during this coronavirus pandemic that we're having, and God bless. Thanks.